Travel is such an amazing way to get out of your comfort zone and push your boundaries, and often the best fun and the most memorable moments come from ticking things off your bucket list that you didn't even know were on there in the first place.
We've backflipped out of planes, spotted killer whales roaming free, been up the most well-known tower, cruised the islands of Croatia, seen one of the most famous walls in the world, and even been in a Mexican wave in Mexico. And these were all epic moments on our adventures, but there's definitely a few other experiences that we want to share.
Last month we made a video sharing our top 12 underrated places to travel, and the feedback we got was humbling. Dane spending over 25 hours to pull together one video wasn't ideal, but it's got over 60,000 views as of recording this, and more importantly, it's helped put a lot of new destinations on people's must-visit lists, and that feels good.
More than just vlogging ourselves doing stuff, we genuinely want to try and add value for your travels and help with your planning. So when a video like that does well and reaches lots of people, we're always stoked. After going through about 10 terabytes of footage over 4 different hard drives, and with Wanderlust at an all-time high right now, we're reminiscing hard and want to share 10 unique experiences we've encountered around the world that you should check out.
You might not visit specifically for the things on this list, but consider this a way of us saying when we can all travel again, we highly recommend you look at the experiences available and pick something unique or different, maybe something a little crazy, something memorable that will stay with you forever, just like these have for us.
If you've just stumbled across this video and have no idea who we are, we're Dane and Stacey, and we've been traveling full-time since 2017. We've been to so many amazing places over that time, and we've also grown an awesome group of friends here that travel the world with us through the videos that we make. So of course this list is purely based on our personal adventures only, but here's 10 of our most unique travel experiences to get you dreaming.
Canyoneering. The Philippines has a special place in our hearts. It's made up of over 7,000 islands, it has some of the world's best beaches, English is widely spoken, they're some of the most well-mannered and welcoming people we've ever met, and the landscapes are just incredible. One of the best adventures that stands out was canyoneering at Kawasaan Falls in Cebu. Canyoneering basically goes like this. 1. Put on an oversized life jacket and helmet. 2. Jump into a massive fast-flowing river with huge waterfalls. Okay, so it's a bit more than that. You do need a guide. A motorbike drops you off at the top, and you have to walk down a bit to arrive at the entrance, and there are particular routes that you take down to the river. If you get a sweet guide that isn't bored, they'll even chuck in a few showy moves for you. It's a bit of a playground for adults, so Dane was absolutely in his element, jumping, diving, and flipping like a crazy person. As you can see, the water is this crazy blue, so Kawasaan Falls are well known around the world for being pretty unique. It all sounds like one big hazard and full of logistics. Both of those are facts, but it was one of the more unique experiences we've had.
Balinese New Year. So Bali is a well-known destination for travelers, but what a lot of people don't know is there's one day per year that can be a nightmare for your travel plans or a super interesting time to visit. And I'm not talking about New Year's Eve, bogans and beers. Nyepi is the Balinese New Year. For an area that thrives on tourism, it quite literally comes to a halt, and there's even security walking the streets making sure everybody stays inside, and that's including tourists. So it doesn't matter if you're a foreigner or not, it genuinely is a day where they enforce the rule and you can't leave your hotel. The locals spend 24 hours in silence, meditating, and for the rest of us, the airport is closed, 4G data is turned off, and there are no lights at all. But it's not necessarily about that one day, it's about the week's worth of rituals leading up to it that are just incredible to see. The locals build these huge paper-mache giant creatures known as oga-ogas, and they're mythical demons and monsters that help rid the island of bad spirits. So over the week you start to see them lining the streets at times, and seeing them in the middle of the road is both common and completely accepted. On the eve of Nyepi, all the districts come together for this huge event that's super chaotic, really random, and so interesting, and it turns into this evening of competition with dances and performances to see which village is the winner and has bragging rights for the next 12 months. So the night after the festival is officially Nyepi, and because all the lights are off, there's no light pollution at all, and in ways that I've just never witnessed before. The stars are popping like mad. Our whole homestay had towels out around the pool, and we spent the night in silence, lying on our backs, watching them for hours. So being there felt like we were led into something really unique, like a local's religion that was so strong, it literally overruled tourism for 24 hours, and there's just something really powerful about that to witness.
Lanta Animal Welfare. We've mentioned in the past that Thailand feels like a second home to us. It's a really diverse place that has so much contrast from the villages in the north to the bigger cities and the islands of the south. We're completely against exploiting animals for tourism, so when we heard about Lanta Animal Welfare doing good things, we made sure to check it out. Koh Lanta is one of the more chill islands we visited, but about 20 years ago it was overrun with stray dogs and cats. Lanta Animal Welfare was set up to help stop that, to support locals struggling to take care of pets, and to fix injured doggos. Through volunteers from around the world, they've been able to help loads of animals recover, and even better than that, they've found thousands of travellers to adopt them. As a tourist, you can visit and take the dogs for their daily exercise, play with the cats, and if your flights align, you can even help the adopted pets to get to their new homes overseas by taking them with you. It was such a cool experience, and we fell in love with a little pup called Tinsel after spending a few hours with her hanging out. Since filming that vlog, we've had hundreds of messages from people going to help out at the centre, and we even had Tinsel's new mum reach out to us to let us know that she made it to Germany safely and she's all grown up now. From a traveller's perspective, it was an awesome way to help out a community, do some good and spread awareness for a great cause. Also though, puppies are just the best, and if I could travel with one, I definitely would.
Vodka tour. If you haven't heard us say this before,
so there's something that we preach about every single time that we come to a new country, and that is to take a food tour when you first get to a place so you can find out where to go for the rest of your trip basically.
It helps you find these undiscovered little streets and these local markets and just actually get like a walking tour at the same time.
So we do actually practice what we preach. From our count, we've filmed 25 food tours in one way or another across 20 different countries. But something we never thought we would do is a vodka tour, yet here we are talking about it.
Get on there, get on there.
So after filming a food tour in Krakow, the owner of the company reached out to us and invited us to try his vodka tour as well, and we pretty quickly, politely declined. But I suppose that's the attitude we're suggesting that you don't take, because we eventually changed our mind, went along with it, and we loved it about 10 times more than we ever thought was imaginable. Poland and Russia have a bit of beef about who the real king of vodka is, so we won't touch on that, but it's safe to say that Poland is a vodka haven and locals will happily shout you around on a night out. In New Zealand, vodka goes in a cocktail, it gets downed in a shot when you're 18 years old, or it sits on the shelf gathering dust, but the vodka in Poland blew us away. Some of it tastes smooth, others were fresh, some were chilled, some aren't, others were sweet, and some not so great, but man, what a journey it was. Ending that vlog was one of the most drunk we've ever been on this channel, and looking back on it now, we almost hit it perfectly.
Turkish winter mission. Cappadocia is one of the most well-known places in Turkey. It's the hot air balloon hub of the world, and the landscapes there are just insane. When you think of snowy spots to visit for a winter getaway, it probably wouldn't feature on anyone's top 100, let alone top 10. Full disclosure though, we actually stumbled into this one ourselves by travelling there in summer and randomly having a few days that was super cold.
Welcome to sunny Cappadocia in Turkey.
This is not quite what I had expected. With weather that absolutely shocked the locals and us, because there was even more snow than what they would normally get in the winter, and we loved it. Sadly for us, that did mean that our hot air balloon was cancelled the first time round, though we did get up in another spot just a few hours away. But waking up one morning to see Cappadocia absolutely caked in fresh pow was one of the most magical things we've ever seen.
Oh, you little shit. I got a fright more than anything. I thought I was going to slip on my ass.
Snowball! Realistically, winter or not, Cappadocia is worth a visit. We got lucky, but it's definitely worth looking into going during the winter. Reaching out tea house. Hoi An is one of our favourite places in Vietnam. The centre of town is one of the most charming places. There's loads of lanterns, and outside of the walking streets is a really nice slower pace of life. The tourist area is anything but slow though. The walking streets seem to grow each year, and it's a wildly popular place to visit. So when we found out about this cafe that advertised itself as a chance to enjoy the beauty of silence in our tea house, a tranquil oasis in the centre of bustling Hoi An, we were sold, and it wasn't just because Vietnamese coffee is possibly the best in the world. All of the staff working at the cafe are speech and hearing impaired, so it really does feel like an oasis because they allow whispering only and there's no music or loud distractions. To help with ordering, they have notes and blocks to use, which we somehow managed to still find a way to fail at.
We have had a little bit of an accident though.
Somehow we got lost in translation with writing what we wanted, which was the coffee taster, and we've actually ended up with 6 coffees, not 3.
But it was for such a good cause that we didn't mind. Silence is a really powerful thing that makes you feel present, so being there felt really special. Reaching Out has grown into quite a large foundation beyond just the cafe for helping Vietnamese people with disabilities, which is cool to hear.
Bunkers and pyramids. So we've shared our praises for Albania in the past. It's got a ridiculously stunning coastline that rivals Greece, some of the friendliest people that pride themselves on making sure everyone is fed and looked after, and as of right now, we think is still really overlooked for travelling. But the capital city, Tirana, is equal parts weird and awesome to hang out. We love finding these crazy stories places we visit, and Tirana definitely made that easy for us, because right in the middle of the city there's an enormous abandoned pyramid-like building just strangely sitting there unused, as well as hundreds of bunkers. This piece isn't anywhere long enough to cover the history about how or why. We go into that more in our vlog from there, but in short, the dictator at the time was so paranoid that he planned to build 750,000 bunkers across the country. As we traveled around by car, we spotted them literally everywhere, just randomly scattered all over the place. A few of the larger bunkers are in the center of town, and they've been converted into these awesome museums under the city that were so interesting yet very creepy, and in a lot of ways really sad, so they have stuck with us. The pyramid building just adds to the weirdness. This is a very random next stop. What is this doing in the middle of the city like this? It was built in the 80s and was the most expensive structure at the time. The dictator had it built in his own honor, and after he died, it had loads of other random uses, but basically now just sits there waiting to be turned into a technology center for kids. These days it just adds a lot of contrast to the city in such a fascinating way, and it's pretty much turned into just a playground for people to run around on.
Traditional dress. Korea is one of those places we briefly visited in 2019 that we really want to get back to. We only had the chance to see Seoul, but from what we saw, it's definitely worthy of its popularity. One of the coolest experiences, but definitely not the most random one,
I think I was one of the only guys as well that did the full makeup thing. I kind of got stitched up a little bit, I think.
was learning about their traditional dress. Hanbok is the traditional attire of the Korean people and was worn daily up until about a century ago, but is now more of an icon of Korea. Some designs are pretty out there, but the colours, shapes and designs all carry different meanings. From a tourist standpoint, it was fascinating to learn about and even more fun to pick an outfit for ourselves to wear for a few hours. Even better though, it's a common thing to rent the outfits and then take a walk around a palace as a bit of a throwback to the old days. On paper, it might all sound a bit overrated and tacky, but it was just one of those crazy moments when we just looked at each other and thought, oh, what is life right now?
Axe throwing. Drinking beers, listening to loud music, and throwing axes sounds like a bit of a recipe for disaster, and we definitely can't argue with that, but man was it fun. Axe throwing obviously doesn't need to be done in Belgium itself, and it definitely feels a bit odd even featuring on this list, but it's something that I always wanted to do, while Stacey on the other hand took a lot more convincing.
Today we want to do something a little bit out of the box, something that Danger is very excited about, and something that I'm maybe a little bit more hesitant about.
We got some split decisions on this. It wasn't just a really sick hour of learning how to throw an axe though. It turned from something that Stacey really didn't want to do at all to her being a badass axe woman who probably had nothing to worry about in the first place. So maybe this one's less about the act of actually throwing axes and more about the act of being open-minded to embracing things outside of your comfort zone and trying something new, and we kind of feel like that's what travel is all about in heart. Of course, adding a bit of booze and a side of danger definitely helps make things a bit edgy as well.
Walking alpacas. This might be the most we've actually laughed in a 1 hour period. Alpacas are so funny.
You've got an audience as well, look at
For
this.
starters, they look hilarious already. They're a lot cheekier than you'd imagine, and they're pretty stubborn as well. Plus, they don't spit like llamas do either. Something about their weird behaviour just had us in fits at times.
Hello.
Good boy.
He's fogged up your legs. On one of our Scottish road trips, we found Clearville Alpaca Farm and decided to do something random. So we booked it on a whim and we don't have a single regret. This was one of those experiences where you can help out, feed the alpacas, take them for a walk and help a local business. We felt good being there, possibly from the tears of laughter, but it's the random type of activity that might not be something instantly on your to-do list, but it's totally worth trying to find something similar when you're traveling next.
That must be the
soft.
oldest.
Really?
Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm making the cutest noises.
So that's our 10 most unique travel experiences. Just recapping all of these is getting us even more amped for travels to come, so hopefully it has for you as well. We love hearing about ridiculous and random experiences, so if there's something that stands out from your own travels, let us know in the comments below.
As always, links to these videos are in the description below, but a word of warning, some of these were filmed a few years ago, so they're not great, but you kind of get the gist of the experience. And now that your wanderlust is peaking, we'll leave you to daydream about your next adventures, and we're going to plan ours, which is a 5-week camper van trip around New Zealand.
Yes!
Close enough?
Casual.
Peace.